fastest production motorcycle. And we're gonna turn it into a snow bike. It's gonna be the world's fastest snow bike. So here we are, driving in the middle of Oregon. It's dark, it's snowing, and we're pulling a trailer. My 3 favorite things.
But it's gonna be well worth the trip, too.
Oh, super worth it.
This one's really cool.
Will, how stoked are you that we're buying a Hayabusa?
I'm so stoked that we're buying a Hayabusa. This is like the coolest thing we've gotten, I think. This is very amazing. I can already imagine just daily driving a snow bike Hayabusa to grind hard every day.
Yes. We call him over the speed limit Willie.
Yes. Been in trouble a couple times. I definitely don't need one of these.
All right, see you guys at home.
This is a lot of bike, honestly.
It is, but it feels very manageable.
It does.
These bikes scare me because they don't. The thing that scares me is that I immediately feel comfortable and want all of the throttle. But I also want to remain alive. And so I've told myself I'm never allowed to own one of these. And now we're buying one. But we're never gonna drive it on the street, so that's okay. The other very important reason is that I kind of promised my wife that I wouldn't ever ride one of these. And I just did, so.
What kind of a promise is that, Ethan?
Time to drive 350 miles through the rain and snow. As Josh from Vega Industries would say, nothing can possibly go wrong now. Dude, I'm amazed at how quickly that started smoking just on the,
Yeah, I couldn't even see you,
wood.
dude.
Yeah.
You disappeared really quick.
RPM was intense.
How heavy is this thing?
550-ish is stock dry weight. Oh wow. Or I don't know if that's dry weight or wet weight, but
The snow bike kit will be heavier, right?
yeah, but not by a lot.
Nice.
Especially because we're losing all of the front, like we'll lose all the front brakes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the front will be a lot lighter and then the back
Yeah.
will be a lot heavier.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh wow, it's super low to the ground.
Because it's actually lowered.
What a beautiful machine.
This is a terrible idea, but I have to drive it out the driveway just so that I can ride it back in. You want a little push?
I mean, everything we've ever bought, we have drifted out this driveway before we worked on it if it ran, so it's only fair we do it with the boost on slicks too. Have you ever ridden a snow bike for a day without laying it down?
Yeah,
Really?
I think so.
I haven't.
And I just went over to Timbersled and picked up their latest and greatest. Timbersled Aero 3. That's a 3-inch paddle on this track. 129-inch length of the track. All the best Fox shocks, which, you know, some of our favorites. And it's even got the quick drive, which is a belt drive inside of here instead of a chain. We'll have that cover off at some point and have a look at the shiny goods in there. But the belt drive spins up quicker and, you know, robs less power and just lighter and simpler. The most premium ski. We're gonna need all of this flotation for such a heavy bike, but we also have all of the horsepower, so it's gonna be premium. Oh, this thing is just beautiful. And you can tell, because of the way that it is, really not that heavy. Oh, just look at that. That's a thing and a half right there. Yum, yum, yum. As you can tell by the snow bikes in the background, I'm a fan of snow bikes. So making the world's fastest one is gonna be good. Ride a Hayabusa up a mountain in the winter. All good things. Oh, this should not be this difficult. Oh, yes.
You just couldn't resist the burnout.
When can I ever resist a burnout? Step one, before I forget, I'm gonna weigh this thing so we can compare the weight of this chunk to the weight of the swing arm, shock, and all the other hardware that's on the back there. Just clip that through that hole. 108, 109 pounds. Which, I mean, we could have looked up a specification on their website, but what kind of fun would that be? 109, that's the track. My plan here, I was trying to think about how to work on this, and it's kind of very low. And of course I need it up in the ground to take the, or off the ground to take the wheels and tires off of it. I'm kind of thinking we'll just actually hang this from the roof too. I've lifted heavier things with this roof, I think. It'll be fine. Is this becoming a near-death experience? Possibly. Does it add to the adventure? Absolutely. And that's how you lift a Hayabusa off the ground with 3 ratchet straps on the roof of your shop. To be clear, this activity is not sanctioned, condoned, recommended, or approved by anyone for anyone. In other words, don't try this at home. Just start removing things that aren't gonna be on there, one of which is the rear brake, because Timbersled kits, you remove the rear brake control up to the handlebar, just because it's easier to deal with big snow boots. And obviously there is no front brake because there's no front tire. Look at this little compartment.
This is where Edwin can hide the sparkling waters.
Oh, yes. Huh, look at that. Now I can access everything back. This swing arm bolt here has this big lock nut on the back side. And then it's got an internal Allen that's like a 21 millimeter. And I was looking around in my random tools drawer and found this. Will and I put this together for something he was working on, maybe the Banshee? Anyway, it just happens to be the right size. There we go. Just stuck in the middle of the swing arm.
Start calling you King Arthur.
Ooh, look at that. That's a big swing arm bolt, and it does not fit. But it does fit through the overall size of the hole. So, just need some like incredibly thin bushings. But it's hollow for, you know, weight reduction purposes. I'm always a fan of that. He's thick! That's a kind of difficult angle to hold it. Can you see how much it weighs?
70 pounds?
Nice. Well, that was 109, so at the moment that's only up 39 pounds. also got one of these, which is a sweet Fox air shock that goes in here, so you can have a little extra suspension for the front, because a snow bike ends up being heavier and generally taking much bigger jumps than a dirt bike, or in this case, a street bike. We'll just assume that we're gonna put this on there. And the whole shebang is 21 pounds. So that's 15 pounds lighter on the front, which is good, because it's gonna be front heavy. But that means we're at, what would that be, 24 pounds total gain?
That's not bad.
Yeah, and I mean, we assume that I'm a lot lighter than the average Hayabusa rider, and we're down to a net loss in weight. Yes. Gonna have to do some custom stuff. The reason I had to get that off is to get at the bolts on the triple clamps, because somebody previously lowered this bike, so you can see the fork tubes are sticking way up out of the triple clamps. And we want it not lowered. Now it's time to start actually figuring out how to make all this work. When this is centered side to side on the machine, the sprocket does not line up. This sprocket on here does not line up at all with the sprocket on the engine, and that's simply because this is designed for a dirt bike, which is way narrower. What I'm gonna do is take this cover off so I can see that sprocket and get at it, and then also take this apart. And I think that this sprocket is, it's on a splined shaft, I know that, but it may be able to move, like, I think these spacers are all that holds it where it is, so I could swap around the spacers and move that out a little bit. I just got curious, and it turns out that I have another sprocket that fits this. No idea what it's for. I have absolutely no recollection of where this sprocket came from. But it's the same width, so it's a 530. But anyway, yeah, smaller sprocket. That'll help it be a little bit slower, which obviously we're trying to build the world's fastest snow bike here, but nevertheless, it's probably okay for it to be a little slower. It'll be certainly easier to ride.
This is rare for us.
It is. I mean, the torque spec is written on it, you know? If I don't have to look up a torque spec on the internet, I'm far more likely to use said torque spec. Look at that, 45 foot-pounds. Now that the chain stuff's done, I can move on to whatever is the next step, which I think is gonna be making a link for here. So instead of having a shock there, you just have a link that's somewhat adjustable. There's all this suspension built into the track, which is way more than the Hayabusa has up front anyway. Went digging through my Heim joints drawer, and this, I believe, is actually a control arm off of the old Odyssey. This is the bolt that goes through it, so I'll make some sleeves that fit into here and then fill up the gap. Being hardened, I can't cut this with my normal parting tool for the lathe because it's not hard enough to cut hardened steel. But you know what is hard enough to cut it? Angle grinder. Well, that's what I call premium. We measure the total width and see if it's gonna fit where it goes. Again, I need to true them up, so. Yeah, it's about 2 millimeters wide. Perfect, I can take a millimeter off each one, and then we'll be exactly where we need to be. If only my brain worked in millimeters. I can use it for like really small stuff like this, because it's just such a small amount that like all I need is the number. I don't really need to visualize how big it is. But like, once you get into like centimeters and meters, then my brain's like, how much is that? I don't know. But look, ooh, nice snug fit. And in here, absolutely perfect fit, as in it almost doesn't go in. Here's the bolt. Oh, look at that. Perfection.
You don't need a gym membership when you work here. Oh, almost put the phone in the back pocket again.
Model's a little sticky apparently. That's good. Before we take the Bronco out for a proper snow wheeling adventure, it needs a little bit of maintenance. But the front wheel bearings are a little loose, and then the heater core seems to have
Just blows.
left the chat.
Yeah.
Spacer number 1 here, the thinnest little sleeve I've ever made. Turned out perfect. Fits just snug enough in there. And just snug enough there. But yeah, that'll be good. Okie doke. Got the holes retapped in the end of this to the right size. In my spacer bucket, found these 2 shiny blue aluminum spacers. They're a little loose on those bolts, but that doesn't really matter for what we're doing with them.
Well, those are from the BRZ suspension.
Nice. Well, it's not 100% mounted, but it is mounted. So now, that's fairly sturdy right there, but fairly sturdy isn't enough when you have a 500-pound bike going absurdly fast in the snow. Now I have to figure out how to mount another place on this to another place on this. Right behind me. Oh, my hand's cramping up from all these hexagons. Yes, high-tech things covered in metallic dust. Always good for them. Pulled the exhaust off of there for me so I can modify it. It's supposed to come apart right here, but someone kind of ruined that concept. It's pretty well smashed together. This outlet here just needs to move probably like 1.5 inches-ish that way. So I'm just gonna cut this tube right here where it's already welded, so I'm not adding a new weld in, and then cut this one like partway through so it stays oriented right, but can be bent. And then I'll just kind of like remove a little section out of this one and just kind of whoop a little bit. Late last night, I finished up the exhaust, got that all put back together, welded back together, and got the fairings reinstalled. So that's a complete Hayabusa snow bike. So that means I think it's about time to take it out and test ride it around the yard. see how it does, and then, you know, figure out any little upgrades we may need before we go out for a full send in the mountains. And this bracketry up here came out really nice with all the hexagons. And it's super strong because it ties to both of the caliper mounts. But it also ties those mounts together so that like this one up here that's kind of sticking out pretty far is also tied back to here and tied to here. So it just reinforces all of that at the same time, which is perfect. As soon as Edmund gets here with the drone, we can take it for a rip. Man, just sounds so good. Oh, it feels so fast just sitting here. So good. Nice and slush, great condition. Yeah. Sounds as good as in my dreams. Wow. The 450s don't accelerate like that. Yeah, this thing leans back hard.
Yeah, it does.
The thing is, if you land on the throttle, you land with it, give it a little throttle, it lowers it down nice and easy.
Oh, that's sick.
I'm gonna go try to rock.
All right.
Okay, not bad. I'll take it. 2 out of 10!
Oh!
Did you get as blasted as I did?
Look at me, dude.
We're all the way on the other side of the river.
Fully blasted. That was pretty intense, dude.
I think we got the shot.
Yeah, we got the shot for sure.
That's the deep part. I found the weakness. The spindle's bent like 20 degrees sideways already.
Woo!
That's freaking
Like
crazy.
I punched a stick all the way over here.
Dude, I felt one of the sticks.
Oh no, with your face? Oh, nice.
Woo! This thing's a workout to ride. And it definitely needs that third shock up front. Before we take it out in the mountains, we'll do that and a few other little things, but man, it's fun. It's actually, this is a lot like learning to snow bike all over again. Like at first I'm trying to go around the corners and put a foot down, but this thing's so low and wide that if I put a foot down, I just get stuck in the snow. My foot does. So you just gotta learn to trust it and just lean into it. And then if you start to tip, you just give it a little bop bop in the throttle and it straightens out. Oh man, my wrists are tired wrestling this thing around. Also, some of those were some hard clunkers going down. The worst is what you guys aren't seeing. When I turn around at the top, I'm going through like Bronco ruts this deep. Just kablam, kablam. Honestly, yeah, it's pretty solid. It's, you know, you can feel that it's heavy. It's a little wide, so if you really lean over, it kind of catches in the snow. But like, it's very stable. And that was just second gear, of course. But that's a good thing that I can get into second gear in the yard because we have 6 of them. So it's geared right. That little gear reduction I did with the 14 tooth, perfect. Because like, you know, you want to be able to use all of your gears, not just the first 3. Yeah, that's some power.
It does not accelerate like a 450, that's for sure. When you were just here, it was just blop. Yeah. It was like a boosted sled.
Well, I'd say that was a heck of a lot of fun for just a little test drive around the yard. Jumped it, kind of did some wheelies. Honestly, it's way easier to control than I thought it would be. Although, I'm gonna need to swing by Timbersled and pick up a new spindle because this spindle has been swindled. It's made for a bike that like weighs half as much as this, so it's not surprising. So I'll pick up another one that's not all bent and then just reinforce it a little bit. All I need to do is like plate across the front of this here, and that would make it way stronger. So we'll pick up another one, do that, make some little adjustments. I'm gonna look at some other forks we have laying around, see if we can just put some taller forks on it. But probably what I'll end up doing is just adding a third shock in the middle here to give it a little more stiffness, because honestly, it doesn't, I mean, more travel is always good, but it's kind of nice to have it low for stability. So it just needs a little bit more bottoming resistance, which would also help not swindle the spindle because, you know, when it bottoms out, that's a lot more force that spindle takes versus the shocks absorbing it. But I mean, it runs really good. I think we'll get a fresh battery. This one's kind of a little sad before we take it out in the mountains. It makes all the right noises and it is quick. I could only barely get into third gear here at the property, but when we take it out in the mountains, we'll aim for, you know, at least 5th. I don't know if we'll find a wide open enough space for 6th gear, but
How fast do you think 5th is gonna be?
I honestly have no idea because I don't know how fast I'm going. Because if the speedometer,
Even just your launches from the pond, you were going
yeah, I was
pretty
probably
fast.
going like 40 or something like
What
that.
does the speedometer say? Probably way faster.
I didn't even
than you're
look at it
actually going.
because if it's even reading, it's reading off the sprocket, so it has absolutely
Yeah.
no idea how fast you're going.
Oh, I want to drive it so bad, but I know I'll crash it. This feels so right. So having all of the horsepower with like 6 feet of track behind you is awesome.
Actually, it's over 10 feet of track technically. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
if
the
you
whole
count the
loop.
whole loop, it's
Yeah.
129 inches. So
Oh, it feels like super powdery. I know you said it's like weird to like lean, but do you think if you had enough powder, you could kind of lean?
you could carve. It would carve okay. It's just that it's so wide that the fairings run into the snow. But if it was soft enough snow, that would be fine because they just kind of push it out of the way. So good, right?
It's just so good. Built-in leg heater, that's nice.
Isn't
It's a little more comfortable than I thought, but I can see about the the situation here not being ideal.
Well, especially with the lack of suspension, it's kind of a, you gotta really like brace yourself.
just
But
kind of like keep your.
like a dirt bike, you can, on a dirt bike, you can like stand up a little bit. This one's so
Yeah.
lean forward, you kind of just have to like
Yeah.
lift your butt off the seat a little
I think
bit.
on a regular snow bike, it's even ideal to be a little bit on the balls of your feet.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you're riding, but yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, anytime you're hitting big bumps, but
I guess if you lock your knees in, you can keep yourself a bit.
Yeah, you
away
can.
From
honestly, I
situations.
expected the bars to feel worse too, like leaned that far forward and those bars are kind of weird
Yeah,
and
it's designed
like
to
so
have
low.
you like down.
Yeah,
really.
it's honestly not as bad as you'd expect for snow biking.
Yeah.
Actually, if anything, it'll be easier for you because you're taller, so you can be even more upright.
Oh yes. I
And you
am
can reach the
tall.
ground easier.